Hello, so I'm going to show you an update on my channel situation because it's a very important update if you like my videos because I'm splitting my content into multiple channels instead of just having it all on one channel. So if you're interested in seeing the rest of this series or whatever other videos like this one, it's a very important announcement to see. But if you've already seen this announcement in other videos or you just don't care, then skip to this timestamp to get right into the video and hope you enjoy. Um, Hello, and today I'm going to give you a rundown of major changes that are happening to my channel, or channels, I should say. So basically, I'm going to be splitting my channel into multiple channels of their own categories of what my channel revolves around. I just said channel a lot, but hope you understand what I'm saying. So the reason I'm doing this is because how the YouTube algorithm works is it says if a viewer on average watches every video you upload, your videos are better, so it shows them to more people. But the problem with my channel is that I react and do so many different content about so many different things that most people aren't interested in everything I react to. So most people just watch one topic that I react to. So, they just watch my Beatles reactions, or they just watch my NBA videos, or they just watch my TV show Breaking Bad or Chris Chan reactions. So basically, I'm going to be spreading my content into multiple different channels so that people who like that content, they're going to watch a higher percentage of each video on those channels, so YouTube will promote it more to help promote my channel, to help promote all my videos in general more. So here's the rundown here. So this channel, Lyric Reacts, will exclusively be for reactions that don't fit my other reaction channels. So basically, this is for my channel for reacting to whatever the hell I want. This channel will stay as reacting to whatever the hell I want as the original channel. So that's basically what the channel will be. Whatever the hell I want is going to be reacting, and all these reaction channels will have daily uploads. So next we have the Lyric Reacts NBA channel. This channel will be for daily NBA reactions. So if you want my NBA reactions, go subscribe to that channel. I will be continuing to upload all my videos to this channel for the next around 2 weeks, and putting this disclaimer at the beginning of each video so people understand before I just start uploading to a channel that no one's subscribed to. But eventually subscribe to that channel, so eventually I will start only uploading my NBA reactions to Lyric Reacts NBA. I'll have daily NBA reactions as well as weekly NBA full game reactions. So we're going to react to a bunch of classic NBA games on that channel. And next we have Lyric Reacts Music. So if you watch my Beatles reactions mainly, that's the music reactions I've done so far, start with this, go to this channel. We'll be doing reacting to the Beatles solo albums, as well as we're eventually going to get to a bunch of classic albums. I plan to do a bunch of classic albums in chronological order, and I'm also going to start my hip-hop journey, where I'm going to react to hip-hop albums in chronological order, the history of hip-hop. So I plan to do one non-hip-hop album and one hip-hop album per week, and it will be all, I'm planning to react to both in chronological order, so I think it'll be a really cool experiment to do. There'll also be daily song reactions from those albums, so hopefully you will enjoy that. So if you like my music reactions here, you want to see more music reactions, go to that channel, Lyric Reacts Music. Next we have Lyric Reacts Media. This channel will be exclusively for TV and movie reactions. So right now I am reacting to 3 shows, quote unquote, those being Breaking Bad, Chris Chan: A Comprehensive History, and Attack on Titan. I'm counting the Chris Chan series, even though it's a YouTube series, as a show because it is a series. If you like reacting to any of those, my Breaking Bad reactions, my Chris Chan reactions, or my Attack on Titan reactions, go to that channel. That's where those reactions are going to move to. And I am planning on uploading two reactions of 2 episodes of each of those per week, as well as 1 movie reaction. I am actually counting the Beatles Get Back documentary as a movie just because the episodes are so long. So if you want to watch the Beatles Get Back documentary, you want to react to that, also subscribe to that channel. And also, weekly movie reactions, as well as 2 episodes of 3 shows per week. And that's it for my reaction channels, but I also have 2 other channels. First of all is Lyric Rumbles NBA. I've already started uploading on this channel months ago, so I already have some original content up there, but the quality is going to improve a lot. It is for my original NBA content. So if you like my NBA content, if you want to see original NBA content, go to that channel, Lyric Rumbles NBA. I plan to upload one video there every 1 to 2 weeks because, obviously that takes a lot more editing and work than the reaction videos. And then I have a new channel called Lyric Rumbles, just Lyric Rumbles. That channel is the original content that is not NBA related. So you subscribe to that channel to get my original content that is not going to be NBA related. It's going to be the channel I'm probably going to work the hardest on in general. And you're not going to see a video in there for a little bit because it's going to take a lot of work for those videos. And my first video I plan on putting there is the Beatles Iceberg Explained, which is a video I'm really hyped for making, but it's going to take a little bit. So subscribe to that channel preemptively to get all those videos. And yeah, so basically that's the gist. My 6 channels: Lyric Reacts NBA, Lyric Reacts Music, Lyric Reacts Media, Lyric Rumbles NBA, and Lyric Rumbles. So subscribe to all 6 of those channels if you like all of it. If you like all my content, go subscribe to all 6 channels. But if you're interested in certain parts of my content that you only watch, subscribe to the ones that fit you the most. And yeah, sorry for this long explanation, but had to get the word out so you know where my content is going to go now. And so yeah, hope you enjoy the content coming up. Hi, my name is Lyric, and today we're going to Playoff Mode. Just how different are the NBA playoffs? An analysis by Michael McKelvey. Now, this guy is a really interesting YouTube channel because he actually used to be a professional basketball player. Like in Europe or something, and he's also really good at statistics and stuff, and he does a lot of statistical and analytical videos on the NBA, which I find really interesting personally. It's something I actually do like about NBA. I know a lot of people don't, but if it's just something you like, stats and stuff, this channel is really for you. So of course go watch the original video for him. So we're going to see, basically I think it's going to be an analysis of how the game is different in the regular season versus the playoffs. Obviously it feels a lot different, but we're going to see the actual differences, how different players play, maybe how it's called, the different play styles, the actual plays themselves maybe. But yeah, we're going to see how the NBA players are different from the regular season. Daily NBA reaction, subscribe, and they're eventually going to come to Lyric Reacts NBA channel. Subscribe to that. Subscribe to Lyric Rumbles NBA for original NBA content. And yeah, let's get into it. Select, subscribe to Smart Small Creator.
June 4th, 2000. Blazers versus Lakers. I was 8 years old during this iconic series, and when it ended, my brother and I were in tears. Kobe and Shaq breaking our Blazer hearts. We ran outside to the blacktop and promised each other that we would never let this happen when we got to the NBA. Of course, that prophecy didn't come true, but even at the age of 8,
hey,
I could tell there was...
When you got to the NBA, you never let that happen to you in the NBA. So, technically, you got it right.
Something different
Pure octane
about the NBA playoffs.
Bryant, it's a shot! Bird lets it fly! Yeah! Jordan puts the shot in the air. Good! The game's over!
Talk about pressure situation.
However, how much of this difference is accurate?
One possession can lose you the series.
How might we be fooling ourselves when we think about the NBA playoffs? So when it comes to the first big playoff difference, there's some simple math that gets greatly overlooked, or at least greatly misunderstood. So let's not have that happen. Let's start with a quick example.
The LeBron thing of him saying one possession could lose you a series, it's very true. Think about the Lakers-Nuggets series this playoffs. The Jamal Murray hit 2 game winners. If the Lakers stop both those plays, then the Lakers win 2 more games. That means they won 3 games in the series, which means they're just 1 away from winning it. So, it would have at least gone to a Game 7 if Jamal Murray didn't hit those 2 game winners. I mean, that's crazy compared to, a fucking blowout it was in 5 games.
So we're all on the same page here.
It is widely believed that there are 16-game players and 82-game players, guys who elevate in the playoffs,
Jimmy Butler,
and
definitely.
guys who wither when the lights shine their brightest, a character defect that has haunted the likes of DeMar DeRozan. This is a cheap narrative, one that can be easily disposed of through some straightforward math. New Orleans finished 7th in the Western Conference, so let's say after the play-in game they match up with the Nuggets in the first round. CJ McCollum is the Pels' best guard, and CJ is widely regarded as a very good NBA player. Currently, he is ranked as a top 10 shooting guard, and since he kind of plays point guard, let's also look at the fact that he's ranked in the top 15 as a point guard.
Look over there.
One could say he is better than roughly 2/3 of the league's starting guards. At point guard, he's better than half. CJ is good. But when the playoffs begin, CJ will no longer be better than 2/3 of the shooting guards or half of the point guards.
There's a way to look at it,
fact,
yeah.
He will be below average, at least in the point guard category, as our pool shrinks to 16. Suddenly, the advantage for the Pelicans on a regular Wednesday night has disappeared because it's not Tyus Jones or Kobe White, or the majority of any other regular season teams he'd be matching
Hey, Kobe
up with.
White is really good this season,
Murray,
okay?
a bigger, seemingly more talented guard. Even if CJ plays well, if he outplays Jamal, or if he breaks even, a far more extreme example exists just a few positions away, where Jonas Brothers Valanciunas will be matching up with, well, that guy. Jonas is an above-average NBA center, but in the playoffs is below average.
And this extends to role players, guys like Herbert Jones, that are probably at a disadvantage
I can see this.
against
This makes
guys
sense.
like Michael Porter Jr. It isn't that these players are lacking character. They're lacking talent, at least when the pool shrinks. And even if that wasn't your interpretation of what Draymond meant,
No excuse for Joel Embiid, though. I mean, he's arguably the best player in the world in the regular season, and then, oof.
seeking 16-game players, that sounds like a simple strategy. The problem is, you might not know who your liabilities are until it's too late. More on that later. Of course, there are many other changes beyond just the field. The game itself truly does change. Notably, the part of basketball that kind of sucks.
In pursuit, blocked by James. Lexington will get it back. Rondo takes it away. Giving energy.
Yeah, defense way more
Eye test
intense
and
in the
certainly
playoffs.
announcers would tell us that defense improves. Players seemingly play harder.
Switch it. What an effort about the hustle.
NBA even kind of made a commercial about
It's
this.
clearly a thing.
Defense improved.
Oh, the intensity of the playoffs.
Matthew Dellavedova, dude.
To test this,
One of the biggest hustlers of all time. Nearly died trying to defend Steph Curry.
I wanted to look at the field goal percentage between regular season and playoffs to see was there a noticeable difference. And it turns out there was. For effective field goal percentage, which is the best measure here, teams were shooting 1.68% better during the regular season in comparison to the playoffs, which gives way to the thesis that, well, defense is improving in the playoffs. But
Not by much,
one
though.
extra step here that I didn't see a lot of people take. The best defensive teams are typically in the playoffs. What if this drop in field goal percentage is just because there's better defensive teams playing each other? And, well, if there's better defensive teams, we would expect that to drop.
So we controlled for this. We looked at just those teams that made the playoffs. How did they shoot during the regular season? And there was an even sharper decline. And making this more impressive,
there you go.
the best offensive teams are typically in the playoffs, meaning this level up in defense
So yeah, it works both ways, yeah. So defense definitely does get more intense in the playoffs.
is even more significant.
Maybe it's something else, though. Maybe it's the refs just not calling as tight of a game, letting the players play, so
Also affects.
to speak.
Also helps the defense on that.
I looked into this as well, and turns out there are more fouls in the playoffs.
Foul by Booker. They didn't call.
Well, okay. There's nuance to this because there's probably more fouls in the playoffs because players are playing way, way more intense in the regular season, which is causing more fouls. But a foul during the regular season would not be a foul during the playoffs. But there's just more fouls that are way harder during the playoffs than regular season. I think that's what that is, mostly. A lot of
When
it.
we look at the teams that make the playoffs, we see about 2 more fouls in the postseason compared to the regular season. So this theory might not hold up.
We all know playoff basketball is different. You don't get the calls.
Perhaps it's because there's playoff fouls during
Yeah, because it's more. Yeah, that's why Joel Embiid and James Harden a lot of times struggle during the playoffs, is because their game revolves so much about drawing fouls, and in the playoffs you can't really draw fouls as much. So James Harden and Joel Embiid, their games both because they revolve so much about drawing fouls, it just doesn't work as well, nearly as well during the playoffs as the games of like a Steph Curry, a Kevin Durant, or LeBron James.
During the playoffs, something the announcers are very quick to remind us of every single year. During the regular season, you might just let them go.
That's not a basketball play. There's no need
But in the playoffs, it's a different form of violence.
Oh, a hard foul.
Yeah.
Medley's head.
Maybe you were just fooling
That's an insane play right there.
ourselves with this one. But on another note, transition defense does seem to improve, and that makes sense. It's an effort-driven play. I mean, getting back on defense, that's
Yeah, I'm sure all effort-driven plays go up during the playoffs.
sucks. That requires a lot of energy, and you don't even know if you're going to look cool when you do it. But that's what's different about the playoffs, that noticeable change between these effort-driven plays. That's what leads to more nail-biting games, right?
This was surprising. Playoff games see more blowouts than the regular season, about 3% more, and this has kind of surged in recent years. Since the 2003 season, roughly about 14% of regular season games have ended in 20-plus point margins, whereas in the playoffs, it's nearly 17.5. And there's more strangeness to this. For example, one would expect the margins to decrease as teams progressed in the playoffs. Once we remove those 1-8, 7-2 matchups, for example, we should see less blowouts, closer games. But oddly, the prevalence for blowouts actually increases in later rounds, despite the generally less competitive 1-8 and 2-7 matchups. Since 2004,
That's weird.
15.4% of first-round matchups have
I don't know how to
been
explain
blowouts
that one.
compared to 17.15% of second- and third-round matchups. This isn't a recent phenomena. The difference can be seen across eras when we adjust for pace. How about that infamous Steph versus LeBron matchup from last year? Well, 3 of them were blowouts.
Somehow, far more evenly matched teams are crushing each other far more frequently in the playoffs. And even more strange, this, being the rubber band effect, seemingly disappears in the playoffs.
Maybe you noticed
So yeah, I know this is talking about. So this is a video I've already seen, which does lead to winning. So basically, it's the theory, it's the real effect that when you're up, you're more likely to not be up for long. Like you're more likely, the team that's down is more likely to come back. It's just like in every game possible. But the rubber band effect, I'm guessing why it wouldn't affect here in the playoffs, is because when you're a team that's up in the playoffs, you're like way more determined to not blow your lead. Like in the regular season, you get more relaxed once you get a lead. You don't get relaxed in the playoffs once you get a lead. Like, you try to extend the lead and extend the lead. Even if you're up 30 points, you're still trying to extend the lead. You're still in the mindset. Whereas if you're up 30 points in the regular season, you're way more likely to just chill back and just accidentally let the lead fall down.
how teams play better when they're behind, and there's some truth to this. I did a more detailed analysis on another video. It is fascinating and measurably substantial, but in the playoffs, this effect nearly evaporates.
Maybe teams are just less likely to let their foot off the gas when they get a big lead in the playoffs. But whatever the cause, teams
That's what
are
I'm guessing it
pummeling
is,
each
yeah.
other more frequently in the playoffs and more frequently in later rounds in the playoffs. It's almost counterintuitive in that way.
Maybe all this has to do with some strategic difference. Pause for a moment and imagine that you are running an NBA team. Sounds kind of fun. In a way, there are 2 seasons you have to prepare for, an 82-game regular season followed by an extended 16-game playoff season, if you qualify. As we know, the 82-game season involves an onslaught of different opponents in different cities across the country. Many of these games will be played on back-to-back nights in various cities where you don't even have time to practice. So there will be far less time for preparation, significant adjustments in between games, and knowing these limitations, you might deploy a different specific strategy that would...
Yeah, it's a bit more easier sometimes to, if you get a really good strategy against a team because you're playing the same team, like 7 games in a row, and you get longer breaks to make a strategy and stuff. If you make a good strategy, it like really works in the playoffs because you're going against the same team, and you have more time to prepare it. So it's less, you're more likely to do that other than just the randomness more of the regular season. I can see that.
would work against the greatest number of opponents. All of this gets into one of the more interesting and influential theories, inspired by a man's interest in poker. John Van Neumann wasn't concerned with the NBA or trying to call his opponent's hand. He actually didn't even really care that much for the card game. He wanted to apply mathematics to the world. He wanted to quantify strategy. And he did so through a monumental paper on the theory of games of strategy. A very scientific sounding title there. Couldn't just say like, what is strategy? But I don't mean to discredit this, because this was a massively important document. It gave birth to game theory, which can be applied to any sport, can be applied to most of life in a way. Life is a series of games. And in the context of the NBA,
that's a hard-ass line right there.
There are at least two different games that we're dealing with here. There's the NBA regular season game and the NBA playoff game. And they both have different parameters. I spoke with Seth Partnow again, who's a former director of basketball research for the Milwaukee Bucks, to kind of get his thoughts on the difference between regular season and playoffs. And he shared his idea on game theory and the differences between the regular season and the playoffs. The first season we can kind of think of as a game theory optimal. Due to the travel, teams have less time for preparation and practice, and they have to deploy a more widespread strategy, a strategy that would work against the greatest number of opponents. So
basically, yeah, so in the regular season, you make a strategy, a game theory that works for the most amount of opponents, so you can kind of go against the whole league. But when you're in the playoffs and you're playing the same team over and over again, you redo your strategy, so you do a specific game theory against a specific team. And if that game theory really works, that's how you blow them out more often, because you have more of a specific strategy rather than a strategy that doesn't really work, very, like super well against a specific team. It kind of works good against the entire league. So, yeah, that would make sense.
To add on to what Seth shared with me, it's helpful to maybe think of this as a gradient with two extremities. On one side, we have a zero-sum game. Again, the product of Mr. John Van Neumann here. On the other side, let's just say we have a win-win scenario. Those are our two extremes, and there's a gradient in between. When your team loses a game in the regular season, if it was purely zero-sum, nothing else would matter, and you would walk away with nothing. However, this is not true. You could be increasing the minutes for a youthful bench player and decreasing the minutes for a starter, and that might decrease your odds of winning that game, but it might increase the odds for future games. To put it more bluntly, why do teams intentionally try to lose? Why do they tank?
Greater good. Yeah, it's the greater good to win more games in the future.
For future draft picks, to try and win future games.
Worked out for the Mavs. We tanked the last few games of the year, missed the play-in game. Pissed me off then, 100%. Don't get me wrong. But we ended up getting us Derek Lively, and it worked out very well. We're in the NBA fucking finals.
So it's different. Unless, of course, you're Jody Allen. You just don't really care about anything. You definitely don't care about lifelong Blazers fans and the pain that you put them through. Thanks, Jody. But until the NBA changes this 82-game carousel where 2/3 of the teams get playoff participation awards, this isn't really going to change. We're going to see a lot of non-zero-sum activity during the regular season, at least for the present games, unlike maybe the NFL, where it seems to matter a lot more each week. But in the playoffs, this changes dramatically. You have a single opponent you are preparing for. There are no back-to-backs, and you will be traveling far less. There is one goal: win now. Given this and the sheer volume of game time against a single opponent, you are given leeway to try experiments. Experiments like maybe putting your rim protector on a poor shooter so he can clog up the floor a little bit. And one of those experiments might be benching that same rim protector just a few series later for a smaller player, and that experiment might forever change the game of basketball. The strategy becomes more game theory specific.
Warriors changed so many strategies in the game.
Zero sum. What is the best strategy to beat a single team? Andrew Bogut made sense until he didn't. But remember how I mentioned you might not know who your 16-game player is until that moment in time? Allen was the weakness that maybe didn't meet Draymond's 16-game player standards. But Tony was an all-NBA defender, and Tony
wasn't this bad at shooting, at least normally.
Polling his percentages, he was over 36% over the course of his career when left this open.
Meaning an open three for Tony was a very good shot, and sometimes the adjustment gets all the credit for the results. What if Tony just had an off shooting night? What if somebody had pulled Tony aside and reminded him not to keep going to the short corner of the block and just standing there and clogging it up and playing like they were in the frickin' 80s or 90s? Would we have maybe had different results? Allen ended up injuring his hamstring in the second half, and the Warriors would go on to roll. People pointed at Allen as if he was no longer a 16-game player, but he very well could have been. In fact, he looked like a 16-game player when he won a championship with the Celtics just a few seasons prior. That's the problem. You won't know who that game theory
Toughest defender Kobe ever played against, he said.
specific liability is until that specific moment in time against that specific team. That is why this is so challenging.
Other coaches have echoed this sentiment. The playoffs being different than the regular season is well known, but something I have wondered from afar. What's the next game theory strategy we might be unaware of at this moment? Or have we kind of plateaued after discovering that 3 is indeed worth more than 2, and there's nothing left to find? One inefficiency that I see after looking into this is 1-on-1.
Isolation plays surge in the playoffs. Now, these are the best isolation.
Whoa. Sorry. I could see more team play being more common, and because there was way more efficient than ISO plays. I could see that definitely becoming more and more common by coaches, and as
Efficiency
you just go
that
on.
I see after looking into this is 1-on-1.
Isolation plays
I go with like as a cute.
surge in the playoffs. Now, these are the best isolation players in the world, so we'd expect more isolation players because, well, the playoffs are made of players like James Harden, who's been historically good, not so great in the playoffs, but historically good in isolation settings. But still, most teams see a big spike in isolation plays, and some teams see nearly double the isolation plays. So
I can see that going
what's
way down.
going on here?
Maybe it's just because there's better defense, and although the inefficient isolation play is a poor game theory choice, it's a necessity at times, kind of like a 17-footer. But here's the thing. A lot of teams are opting for isolation plays early in the clock, and these plays also increase substantially as the game withers down. A lot of times the fourth quarter is purely ISO.
I think also it could also be because teams just trust certain players in the playoffs way more. Like in the playoffs, they don't trust their role players nearly as much. You know, like you're the Suns, you don't trust Grayson Allen in the playoffs, even though he was super important in the regular season with his insane 3-point percentage. You trust Kevin Durant way more, so you just always go to Kevin Durant every play, even if it's not really the right strategy you should be doing. You just kind of do it because you trust him way more.
Even for the best isolation players, this is an inefficient approach given the alternatives. Yet, ISO ball remains.
Maybe in the future we'll just kind of laugh about this isolation play in the playoffs, the same way we stare back in time and enjoy a 70s or 80s game and how there's no spacing, teams are just kind of standing around.
Some other notable differences, or lack thereof. How about clutch shooting? Well, I did a whole breakdown on this, but when given enough volume,
I'm gonna watch that video.
players are pretty much themselves.
Nonetheless, though, there seems to be this belief that there are no more secrets to be found, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Basketball is a complex game, and because it's a complex
Ballen,
game,
man. Very nice.
a small change will compound into a disproportionate change in outcome. That's chaos theory. There are 2 games in the NBA, a regular season game and a playoff game. They're certainly different, and in the playoffs, teams are more creative with their changes and less forgiving. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and take care.
Alright, so that was a super interesting video. Make sure to watch the original video because this guy is super underrated, has less than 100,000 subs, very slightly less than 100,000 subs, 99.9k. So make sure to subscribe to him, watch the original video. And yeah, this is a really interesting look in the NBA playoffs. What are your opinions on the difference in NBA playoffs and regular season and all that, and other NBA videos you want me to react to and all that, daily NBA reactions, and yeah, that's about it.